will be looking for landmines, because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before to people. I don't want to see a shutdown. Shutdown would be a terrible thing.
Now let's welcome in Jessie Jane now. Jessie Jane, I know you had a chance to take a look at this proposal, at least the outline of it. What do you think President Trump should do here? Should he sign this, or should he use some of these executive powers that he still has an option to do so? What do you think is the best course of action?
Well, I spoke with the chief of staff of a top congressional member today, and first of all, this is over 1,000 pages. We may be seeing a summary of it, but what's in it is what is our landmines, like the president mentioned. It could be in this very bill that he cannot declare a national emergency. This is what the very chief of staff told me, and if that happens, we're capped at $1.6 billion. So no, he does not need. I would never advise the president to sign something that I haven't even seen. Wow. This is just like Obamacare all over again, and we need to be very careful, because none of us on this set have seen what's in this. And I think the president's going to be very careful. Second of all, what he can do is continual resolution. He can push this down, and then at the end of the year, he can hold the Democrats hostage for the funding they want, for all of the cushy programs that they want. And he can say, okay, where's my deal? So that's what we have to remember. 1,000 pages in this bill that no one's talking about.
Well, look, it's a dumb officer who doesn't listen to the wisdom of NCOs. And Gunnery Sergeant Duff is absolutely right. I didn't realize this was 1,000 pages. Boy, I'm a lawyer in civilian
actually, 1,100.
Wow. I wasn't a lawyer in the Army. I knew my parents, but I'm a lawyer in civilian life. And when I see 1,100 pages of something, I'm not signing nothing. So I've gone over every page with a fine-tooth comb, and if that means kicking everything for a week just so we can do this, maybe that's what we do. But boy, you know there are landmines in there. You know it, I know it, and even Donald Trump mentioned it.
And guys, maybe that's why Chuck Schumer is pushing so hard to go ahead and get this bill signed. Here's Schumer and Pelosi talking about urging the president to go ahead and sign this bill.
I urge President Trump to sign this agreement. We must not have a rerun of what happened a few months back.
That's a win for the American people. It's a compromise, and that's what appropriators do.
I think there would be much political pushback from the Republican Party, or even from Mitch McConnell, if there is a poison pill amendment in this bill that would prohibit the president from his constitutionally guaranteed right to declare an emergency if he sees fit. Right, Jessie Jane?
Well, I would expect that, but when I listen to the chief of staff tell me what they haven't seen in this and how it could prevent or circumvent the president from being able to move forward, we are looking at something that could paralyze him. So essentially, one of the recommendations in the meeting I was in today was that he should just essentially go with a continual resolution, and that way the government does not shut down. The only people that are shutting anything down are the Democrats. For them to say that they're negotiating, okay, wow, Nancy Pelosi calls it, I won't give him $1. Now she's going to give him 1.6 as a negotiation. This is just a farce. How they can look at us with a straight face and call this a moral issue. Meanwhile, while Americans are being killed by these illegals, and even legal immigrants, such as the officer on Christmas Day who was killed by an illegal. I mean, this is reprehensible. How can they look at us and lie like this to our face every single day when they know this is a serious issue to the American people?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Jessie Jane, when you mentioned the fact that they probably don't think very many of us are paying attention as closely as you are to the situation. 1,100 pages. You know, I guess they were doing some work. I guess they were doing some work when they had those couple meetings of the committee. I think they only met a few times, though. But it does seem like this was something that was hammered out behind closed doors by the leadership. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
All right, that was a line of questioning from Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar on the House Foreign Affairs Committee to Elliott Abrams, a guy who worked in the Reagan and Bush administrations, is the special envoy now for President Trump to Venezuela. All right, still with us, Jessie Jane Duff, a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research and a retired Marine gunnery sergeant. Also, Kurt Schlichter, a senior columnist at Town Hall, a lawyer, and a retired Army colonel, sticking around. All right, who wants to start?
I'll start. She's garbage.
I can't wait to choke her. Oh, we both want to choke her. Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, she's just garbage. She's an anti-Semitic fool. She's a leftist idiot. She, it's a real testament to the stupidity of her constituents that they put that, clown, moron, fool up representing them. She's a disgrace. She's stupid, and she signs with America's enemies. And I think Elliott Abrams was, I think he displayed a remarkable amount of restraint in the face of that blithering, gibbering moron. So my feelings are mixed.
Go ahead.
Representative Omar has also promoted the propaganda of this hostile foreign government. She's actually gone against the administration and our foreign policy in supporting Maduro. Who does this? Who goes out there and promotes their propaganda against the people of Venezuela and then actually attacks the administration and their officials for being humanitarian? Is she completely oblivious to what is going on to the Venezuelan people under this dictatorship? I don't get it. It doesn't. It boggles my mind. Of all the battles she wants to fight, why is this one that she's choosing? To support Maduro is supporting a dictator who is essentially killing his own people drip by drip as they are starving to death.
But she's for that, Jesse. She is for that. You've got to understand what the Venezuelan government, this tyranny is doing, is not a bug to them. It's a feature. This is what they want. They support it. They support it over the United States. They side with our enemies, and they're too stupid to even hide it like normal urban liberals.
I don't know if she's in favor of all the starvation, but I do think that she feels like what's happened to Venezuela is the exception to the rule of socialism, not the norm, which we know is not the case. I want to take a little closer look at Venezuela.
Going on. Come on. She knows exactly what's going on, and she likes it. That's what she wants. I think
she enjoys the provocative nature and the attention she gets from these comments, but this, I think, was a bridge too far today, and I don't know who's more anxious to have her resign, President Trump and Vice President Pence or Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because she's derailing a lot of the stuff. Whatever it is they're trying to work on, she's taking all the oxygen out of the room. But to Jessie Jane's point, there is a very terrible situation, a travesty going on down in Venezuela. Take a look. Massive protests continue on the street there. Opposition leader Juan Guaidó joined those protesters yesterday. He actually rode into the crowd on the back of a motorcycle. That's what you see right there. The crowd was screaming, "We want Maduro out." Venezuela, as we talked about, suffering from hyperinflation, produce shortages, mass migration to other neighboring Latin American countries. Maduro's military, as you see right now, is standing on the border, literally with Colombia, blocking U.S. humanitarian aid from entering the country, which he sees this aid as a Trojan horse. Now, last night I spoke with Ángel Alvarado, a deputy to the Venezuelan National Assembly. I asked him how long he thought Maduro could actually maintain his control over the military. Here's what he had to say.
The ordinary people, the soldiers, the people in uniform, are people in poverty, low level of income. They don't receive enough to eat, also his family. So 90%, around 90% are against Maduro.
All right, that's Ángel Alvarado, a deputy to the National Assembly there and an official in Venezuela. But my question to both of you, military veterans, Maduro still maintains control over the military. There was one Air Force general who defected. But when 90% of the rank-and-file uniformed officers, military troops, actually don't support the guy in charge, how much longer, Kurt, do you think he can maintain control of the military?
I don't know. They've shown a remarkable ability, like my state government here in California, to hit the bottom and then keep digging. But let me just say this, not one life, not one American life for Venezuela. Venezuelans chose their situation. They put him in power. It is up to them to cure this, not Americans. No American lives for Venezuela. Sorry, guys. This is on you.
Jessie?
Well, we also know that there's a heavy Cuban influence within this military, and it has been reported, we don't know the exact numbers of Cubans that are within the military structure, and they have been largely dissipating some of the problems of the military wanting to possibly rebel, and they have a great influence. The reason being, Cuba obviously has an invested interest in Venezuela for oil and other reasons for their economy. So there are Cubans that are actually serving in the military. I've heard different reports that the military is not immune to the starvation of the people, and if that is the case, I don't see it lasting much longer, that they will sustain themselves supporting him. It also came out that Maduro had Cubans that were surrounding him as his detail for security, which tells you he has flagrantly decided that he can't trust his own people and his own military. Yeah. So this is a tipping point. I think Guaido can take advantage of this. He has offered immunity to all military personnel who decide to just leave the service in support of Maduro and support him.
Yeah, and apparently the deadline that Guaido gave Maduro for letting that humanitarian aid is February the 23rd. That might be the tipping point. If Maduro continues to block this humanitarian aid, that the military might turn on Maduro. Also, guys, Russia is telling the United States to butt out of this whole entire situation. Obviously, Jessie Jane, too, Russia has a lot invested in Venezuela as well. But, Kurt, does Russia... There you see Sergei Lavrov. He actually called Mike Pompeo this week and said, butt out of the whole entire situation. But, Kurt, you think
Russians are telling us what to do now, huh? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
They're telling us what to do?
Apparently.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I got a better idea. And I can't really say it because you guys are FCC compliant. But, look, I was a veteran of the Cold War. I think Jessie Jane might have been, too. And Russians don't tell Americans what to do. Russians freaking dance to our tune, not vice versa. There's a thing called the Monroe Doctrine. I don't remember it being repealed.
The Monroe Doctrine.
Keep your hairy bear paws off our continents.
Yeah, well, you could argue that we haven't been paying enough attention to the Monroe Doctrine down, because the Russian influence is there, and we need to address it. All right, still with us, Jessie Jane Duff, a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, and Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Town Hall, a lawyer and a retired Army colonel. Of course, Jessie Jane Duff, a retired sergeant. All right, guys, what do you think about this? Cory Booker says he wants to pick a female vice president. Some people are wondering if we need a female Secretary of Defense. Should sex really play a role when deciding who should fill these positions, or should it go to the best candidate, regardless of their sex?
Go for it, Jessie.
I feel that, when you're starting to talk about it, because, first of all, I believe Heather Wilson's the one that they're throwing out there. I'm not a big fan of hers. I saw her speak at a women's event at the White House. She simply stated that the Air Force has an opportunity for everyone, and this is during the transgender debacle that we were going through. I don't think she has a grasp on what it requires to deploy the forces on long periods of time, and also women fighting in ground combat, which is still an Obama overstay that has happened, and that Secretary Mattis did not resist. Everybody is so consumed with equality, but they don't seem to understand. And as Kurt and I can attest, combat is not about equality. It is about winning and killing. It is about defeating your enemy. And when you start putting women in ground combat units, and yet you say it is their choice, then what is equal about that? If women are going to serve in ground combat units, they must all be able to serve in ground combat units, fighting in combat. I'm not talking about supporting combat. I'm talking about infantry ground combat, where it's bloody, it's brutal. Women have 45% less muscle mass, 20% less lung capacity. And I'm talking about even the most fit of women will always come in at the bottom of the scale when it comes in with men. So what are they doing? They're lowering the standards. I see Heather Wilson turning the other cheek and letting this pass to keep the feminists happy. I am not a fan of any of this. And if Cory Booker really believes that a woman should be president, then why is he running for president? He's such a hypocrite. Oh, and be a vegan while you're at it, Cory. Give me a break.
All right, Kurt. Well, I don't know if you want to respond because that was such fire, but I'll let you try anyway.
Well, Jessie seems typically equivocal. Look, I'd like to thank the Democrats for showing that women can be just as incompetent, foolish, and wrong as men. They've really shown that there's no difference between the genders concerning their capacity to be terrible. Hillary Clinton was a nightmare. Kamala Harris is a nightmare. Amy Klobuchar is a nightmare. I could go on and on. I am very concerned with the leadership in the Pentagon right now. I believe that the senior levels, including flag officers, in many ways have sold their souls to trends in political correctness, and they aren't saying the things that we all know are true. Look, a 180-pound infantryman, and I use the word man, can simply carry more than a 110-pound woman. That's not a hit on the woman. It doesn't say anything bad about women. I've served with women. Women have been decorated for bravery. It's not a hit on women. It's a lie to say it is. It's a hit, right. If anything, it's a hit on science and biology. Men are just bigger, and that matters.
Those decisions, and I trust you guys who have actually been there and have been deployed for these types of decisions. Jessie, Jane, Kurt, great insight, guys. I'll have you back next time. We don't have something, you guys can't share your opinions so much. Seems
maybe be more restrained.
Yeah, try to be more restrained. No, actually don't, because we appreciate it. All right.